My smoking hot wife was naked on my bed, and my penis shriveled up and shrank away in shame. It failed me in the worst way imaginable, right when I needed it most. "What just happened?" my beautiful wife asked, confused. "I must be tired," I mumbled, wishing the floor would swallow me up. She looked at me and she gave me a kind of half smile. You know, like the kind of smile people give you when they try to keep it positive, but deep down they think you're pathetic and feel sorry for you. Then she walked out, leaving me alone on the bed with a tightness in my throat, feeling like a failure of a man. How I'd wanted to pleasure her so bad right then, and for sure, how she wanted it too. She looked so hot, lying naked on the bed, and yet when it came to it, I couldn't perform. I failed us both miserably. I couldn't give my wife what she wanted, what she needed. She'd usually help me out if I was losing my erection, but this time she didn't. She knew there was no hope. The shame and embarrassment destroyed my confidence, but even worse, my ED took me to the brink of divorce and almost tore my family and my entire life apart. Our marriage had always been awesome, with plenty of good, wholesome sex. Sure, there were ups and downs, but I never had any problem getting erections. But the last few years, I couldn't get hard as I used to, and my penis even felt smaller than before. Until one night, I couldn't get hard at all. The most embarrassing and humiliating incident that reduced me to a shell of the man I once was, plunging me into the dark depths of self-doubt, despair, and anguish. You're probably wondering why the heck I'd ever share this deeply personal and painful story with you. Well, it's because I found out that 95% of what men are told about ED is despicable lies. My agonizing episode with ED forced me on a journey that ultimately caused me to discover the untold truth as well as the shocking lies and myths promoted by the pharma industry about men and their erections. You see, when it comes to ED, it's not about your age. Did anyone tell you that ED happens because you're getting older? Pardon my French, but that's BS. In a minute, I'll show you how a 75-year-old man is enjoying the thickest, firmest erections of his life and bringing his young wife to a shuddering, pulsating climax over and over every time he wants to, and how you can too. ED is not in your mind. It's absolutely nothing to do with psychological reasons, which is something doctors say when they have no idea what's going on. And I'll tell you how one drunk doctor accidentally revealed this shocking truth to me one night. And it's not treated with ED drugs or weird testosterone treatments. Taking these dangerous synthetic drugs, which can trigger sudden heart attacks, blindness, and strokes, is no different to using a Band-Aid to fix a broken leg. Let's face it, each time you pop an ED pill, it's like playing Russian roulette with a loaded .45 Magnum pointed at your head. Just take a look at this. ED pills have killed thousands of men with unexpected heart attacks. According to a study published in the science journal Cell, Viagra can cause platelets in the blood to clump together, increasing your risk of a deadly stroke. 1 in 30 men who take ED pills suffer from vision problems. Nearly a quarter suffer from debilitating migraines. You could take an ED pill and trigger a sudden heart attack or stroke one day with no indications it's about to happen. What's more, these pills do nothing to treat the root cause of ED, and in fact, they even make it worse, forcing you to become dependent on them just to get semi-hard, which as we know is a great way for the pharma companies to put their hand right in your wallet and help themselves to as much of your hard-earned cash as they like. And don't get me started on deadly testosterone gels and injections, treatments that we know now are proven to be linked to multiple cases of stroke, heart attack, and liver failure. The ED industry itself is worth over $5 billion, and they care more about their money than they do about you. Believe me, Big Pharma is laughing all the way to the bank at your expense. The top executives all live in huge mansions with gyms, heated pools, and jacuzzis, all because you don't know about this penis hardening secret I'm about to reveal. It's a good old racket set up to make as much money as they can. And here's the thing about ED. It's not your fault, and you're not alone. Nearly 50% of men over 40 suffer from ED, and that number is increasing rapidly. I'll tell you how I got out of my ED black hole and get naturally hard, bulging, thick erections on command in just a minute. And the good news is you need nothing more than a homemade 60-second tonic mix that reverses the root cause of ED and stiffens your penis in minutes. I'll also tell you the incredible story of how I got lucky and stumbled on this mind-blowing erection hardening secret, and how my wife nearly ended up in bed with a younger man, all because of my inability to perform. But first, you need to know that scientific studies published by Harvard Medical School reveal the true cause of your ED and how to enjoy the stiffest, longest-lasting erections you've had since your teens with nothing more than a 60-second hard erection tonic mix. I'll admit, I was stunned when this unusual blend of ingredients and enzymes I picked up in the grocery store gave me the hardest, most pulsating and throbbing erection I'd had in 20 years. It blew my wife's mind. But she had a big, happy smile on her face. You'll be astounded when I tell you how I accidentally stumbled on this solution and saved my marriage, my family, my confidence, and my happiness in the process. Nowadays, I get big, super stiff erections any time of the day I want, which makes my wife incredibly excited. I'm not telling you this to brag. It's true. Besides, I'm a regular guy just like you or anyone else, and it's all thanks to this simple tonic formula I add to my morning routine. I enjoy getting naturally hard erections again, but when I help other men get their hard erections back, it's every bit as good because I know that the effect of a naturally thick, stiff erection on your confidence and happiness is something to behold. Just imagine when your manhood gets hard as iron on demand. You feel manly, confident, and able to take on the world, just like when you were a young guy, but with more experience than those clueless young dudes around these days. Your wife is ecstatic and relaxed. Your marriage is blissful and she looks at you doe-eyed in worship every day of the week. And believe me, when she climaxes several times a night, she'll never complain about a thing. Your friends and family will sense your new energy and confidence and will feel much better to be around you. They'll admire and respect you as a family leader. You'll get more kudos from other guys. They won't know why. They'll just sense your viral new strength and confidence you get from getting rock hard and bringing your wife to multiple orgasms. Your masculine confidence leads to a promotion at work or greater success in business. You're charismatic and you're successful with it. It's amazing when you see how powerful the effect of getting a thick, hard, pulsating erection is on your entire life, isn't it? And it makes me super happy that the 60-second tonic formula I'm about to share with you is transforming so many men's lives out there. Check out what Anthony Green from St. George, Utah had to say. I feel like I've finally woken up. My marriage was on the rocks and yet somehow we pulled through it. I haven't felt so pleased with my life in years. My wife is enjoying the super strong orgasms I give her almost nightly, and I have to say, getting hard as a brick on command is the ultimate confidence booster. I feel like my entire life has been transformed, and it's all down to this one simple change in my morning routines, which gets my member as hard as when I was 21 years old whenever I wanted to. Anthony, 55 years old. And here's a message I received from Dalton Wyman in Burlington, North Carolina. I had ED for over 5 years, and for me, it was done, and there was no way back. With the ED pills losing their effect and making me feel nauseous, I was desperate to find alternatives. Thank God I watched your video right to the end because I was able to see the scientific proof and the easy trick that enabled me to get my hard erections back for good without any pills or horrible side effects. When I followed the simple morning routine you revealed, I got a super hard and bigger than ever erection soon after. And boy, was it wonderful. With your stiff erection morning tonic, I really do get hard on command and I feel incredibly manly at 65 years old. Dalton. Listen closely because you're about to see exactly how to fix the root cause of your ED naturally and restore your hard wood permanently. What I'm about to show you is not medication, it's not a testosterone supplement, and it's not some weird gel or something you inject. It's none of those things, and I promise you've never seen it before. And if you've ever felt the shame and anguish of being unable to get hard just when you need it, felt embarrassed and less of a man because you lost your erection after a few minutes, don't get as hard as you used to, even if you do everything right. Felt anxious and scared that you'll never get hard again. Or ever felt insecure and envious of younger guys who have lots of sex and get hard on command. Then hang on to every word I say from now on like your life depends on it, because I'll show you proof from Harvard Medical School and the International Journal of Impotence Research that shows you can go from the humiliating, soft, or non-existent erections of today to pleasurable and pleasing super hard erections in a few short days or even hours. And it all starts with the simple hard erection morning tonic I'm about to share. Be sure you watch and listen to everything I say right to the end, because this critical information is only being shared for a limited amount of time right here in this video, and could be gone by tomorrow. And it's the only way you'll get the hard erections and enjoyable sex life that's waiting for you in a few minutes from now. It doesn't matter how long you've had ED for, it doesn't matter what your age is, it doesn't matter how bad your ED is, or if you're only interested in improving your performance. This is the only way to get your naturally stiff, vigorous erections back in a short time. So pay close attention right to the end of this short video. Turn off all distractions. You're about to find out how to say goodbye to ED for good and get back the potent hard erections of your younger years. Before I share the powerful hard erection solution with you in 1 minute, I should introduce myself. My name is John Remington, and I'm from Mesa, Arizona. I'm 60 years old, and I mean it when I say that 2 years ago, ED nearly destroyed my entire life until I stumbled on this unlikely hard erection secret. Like most guys, I could perform pretty well when I was younger, sometimes 2 or 3 times a night in my 20s and several times a week in my 30s. My wife Laura has always had a great sex drive, which was amazing during those times. But when I hit 45 and then 50 years old, my erections would come and go and they wouldn't feel rock hard anymore. And sometimes I'd lose my hardness after a few minutes. It was all pretty confusing because, like I said, I used to perform pretty good in bed, and even if I was getting older, it wasn't like I was in my 80s yet. Then one night, I failed to get it hard at all. I told myself it must be down to stress or fatigue. But it happened again a week later, then twice more a couple weeks after that, until I could only get semi-hard by looking at videos. And I felt dirty and guilty watching videos, but it was the only way. We tried spicing things up in the bedroom like most couples do. I got my wife some sexy lingerie, and one evening I thought I'd inject some excitement. I met her in a bar downtown, and we fantasized that we just met as a hot new couple. And this sure turned both of us on. Laura got very excited. I took her home that night feeling on top of the world, like I was bringing back the hottest, sexiest girl in town. When I undressed her, she was shaking with excitement at every touch. She was panting heavily and couldn't wait any longer. She wanted me so badly inside her, and who could blame her? It had been months. As she moaned in anticipation of a juicy night of orgasmic pleasure with a real man, my manhood shriveled up and shrank away. You know what? I couldn't even muster up a semi-hard erection. As the seconds ticked by, my penis stayed as soft as spaghetti. I tried everything. Heck, I even tried to push my penis inside her in the hope that maybe it would stiffen up if I did. But it was like pushing a marshmallow in a slot machine. Instead of stiffening up, my penis actually got softer, then smaller, until it shriveled up as though it was shrinking away in shame. I tried to keep foreplay going, thinking maybe if I stopped worrying it would get hard on its own. But I had this horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. And after 5 minutes, I rolled over in shame, devastated. And that's when she stood up and gave me that pitiful half-smile look, the look that scorched a hole through my self-esteem, and walked straight out. I felt as if I'd been punched in the gut, and it shredded my confidence and my self-worth. And who could blame her? She'd been the most patient, wonderful wife in the world, putting up with my countless failures to perform. And this is what plunged me into the black hole of despair and crippling self-doubt that lasted several years. And yet, somehow, I was glad it did, even if it sounds strange, because it forced me on an unlikely journey, and only a few weeks later, I stumbled on the potent natural secret that restored my hard, youthful erections again for good. But it took a lot of hard work and suffering, pain that I wouldn't want you to go through. Here's why. When I started to lose my erection, I felt less of a man, like a has-been, past-it dude. I started to worry that younger guys sensed this, and they'd even look at my hot wife as though they knew I wasn't able to satisfy her. I became anxious that my wife craved sex from a real man, a man who could get himself as hard as iron and give it to her as much as she wanted. My wife is beautiful, and I'll admit, I've always punched above my weight. She takes care of herself. She works out and watches what she eats. She's relaxed about her body, and she's never been shy to initiate sex. And she's a woman who needs regular sex to be happy. So you can imagine how much of a strain this put on my relationship and on my mental health when I couldn't get it up for 5 years straight. If I felt like a failure in bed, I felt like a total loser in real life. My erection failures shot my self-esteem to pieces. It was affecting my confidence so much that after a few months, I got overlooked for a promotion and pay rise at work. It seemed that colleagues were starting to lose respect for me. Women who would touch their hair and smile when I talked to them stopped making eye contact with me. It felt as if everyone knew I had this crippling ED. So I did what any man would do in this situation, and I went to visit my doctor. I was expecting some understanding from him, man to man, but he wasn't the slightest bit interested. He even looked bored when I told him about how erectile dysfunction was ruining my life. He reached for his prescription pad without even looking up, and I was out of there in minutes. The conversation lasted a whole 60 seconds before I was off to pick up my prescription. The next few months were a blur of doctor visits and prescriptions for various ED pills that I had to swallow an hour before sex, meaning the fun kind of spontaneous sex we used to enjoy was over. I felt like a sucker for paying hundreds a month just to get my penis hard, which is something that should be automatic at my age. But even if the ED pills got me hard sometimes, the side effects were nasty. In fact, the very first night I took the little blue pill, the sex was kind of weird and mechanical, and we had to plan it carefully. It had no warmth or love to it. There's none of the excitement of before. It felt like I was fixing the boiler. And even if I got harder than I had for a while, my wife didn't enjoy it as much as before. Then, after finishing off, I immediately got hit by a splitting migraine. As I walked to the bathroom cabinet to grab some Tylenol, the lights blinded my eyes. I got so worried about the headache, my wife took me to ER. But what was even worse was that a few months later, the pills started having less effect. What's more, my erection was gone with the wind once the effect wore off, leaving me feeling fake and inadequate. ED pills weren't working, but I'd read on some internet sites that taking supplements could help. So I went to the natural health store and loaded up. I got stuff called Herbal Performer, L-arginine, Tribulus, and one called T-Booster Hardness. These seemed to help my erections a little at the start, but my body stopped reacting to them after a few weeks. My doctor wanted to increase my dose of ED pills or put me on testosterone gels, but after reading some horror stories about men who got sudden strokes and heart attacks from these treatments, I turned this offer down. Finally, I joined a gym, as I'd read on some health websites that working out could help with erectile performance. But after 6 weeks of it, I felt exhausted and my knees were hurting. Plus, it didn't harden my erections one bit. I had almost given up hope at this point. Maybe I would never get my erection back again, and this was the end of me and my sex life. To make matters worse, the tension was high at home. It felt as though Laura and I were estranged, as though we were counting down the clock until our divorce. I was even starting to wonder how we divide our belongings after our separation. Unless I could perform in bed again, it was clear I had no chance of saving what was left of my marriage and my family. I know sex isn't everything, but it's important for any successful marriage. And for us, it most certainly was. It almost tipped me over the edge when one Saturday morning, Laura's phone kept flashing on the kitchen table while she was upstairs taking a shower. I had been worried other guys were trying to hit on my wife, and even if I knew it was wrong, I picked up her phone and had a look at her messages. She had been chatting with a younger colleague at work named Stefano. He was the up-and-coming star of their company and had closed several huge deals, making a fortune for them. They'd been chatting with text messages for the past couple of months. First of all, it was fairly innocent stuff about work. And then, recently, Stefano started to text her compliments about how pretty she looked in the office that day. And scrolling back through the messages, I saw one that froze my blood. A week earlier, he'd been trying to persuade Laura to join him on a work trip to Mexico in a month or two. "I'd love to spend more time with you out there, and it'd be good for your career prospects," he wrote. "All you have to do is say yes, and you'll get the green light." She replied that it sounded great, and she would think about it. Reading this, it felt like my guts had gone through a meat grinder. I only had 6 weeks before my wife went to Mexico, and this younger, attractive, and successful Italian stud who could surely perform in bed would hit on her there. And with her impotent, useless husband at home, considering how frustrated she was after a full year without sex, how could she refuse such an offer? I felt a sudden flash of panic, and I locked myself in a room upstairs for 30 minutes, my heart pounding. And minutes later, when my mind became clearer, I knew I had 3 choices. I could do nothing, let my wife go to Mexico and sleep with this guy, hope that the divorce would be amicable and wouldn't affect my family too much, and dating other women after this would be pointless. I'd be finished as a man. I could complain and cry to anyone that'd listened to my sob story about how ED ruined my life and it was all Big Pharma's fault, and my penis would still stay limp forever. Or I could fight this thing and never give up until I found the solution, until I got my good heart erections back and saved my marriage. And this is what I decided to do that morning. From that day on, I was never going to be a victim again. I felt a renewed determination that day and a desire to go out and take this on. And thankfully, this turning point led me directly to the hard erection secret I'd accidentally discovered a few days later. And it came from a most unusual source. I work in logistics and supply chain as an inventory manager, and we had our annual corporate event from our suppliers coming up the next week. This time, they'd invite us to Las Vegas, and even if I was worried about leaving my wife alone, I had no choice. Now, as a family guy, I don't go crazy partying when I visit Vegas, and I didn't intend to this time either. But sure enough, the first night I found myself out drinking with some suppliers who I'd never met before. It was a group of guys, including one older gent named Tom, whose beautiful wife seemed devoted to him. As the night progressed and we moved from bar to bar, I got talking to Tom and his attractive wife, who looked like she was from Asia. He told me he was 75, although he looked closer to 60, and he kept working because he loved his job. He also supplied pharma companies and doctors with supply chain equipment. In fact, he met his wife Wendy through work when she was a researcher for a big pharma company. His wife looked to be in her 40s and very pretty, so obviously this guy was doing something right. As we retired for the night, we were surprised to find our hotel rooms were next to each other. I wished my new friends good night and went straight to sleep. But I was woken at 1 hour later by some loud lovemaking noises coming from next door. 75-year-old Tom was busy banging his young, gorgeous wife. And she was moaning so loudly, it felt like the whole hotel was shaking. Not to mention the bed slamming on the walls so hard, it felt like they were going to cave in. After about an hour of what sounded like Wendy having at least 5 orgasms, it finally subsided and I was able to sleep. Only to be woken up at 7 a.m. the next morning by more loud lovemaking. Wow, I said to myself, 75 years old and banging away like that? He must have some secret. And I headed down to the hotel restaurant for breakfast. As I was finishing up my coffee, Wendy came into the restaurant on her own and smiled at me. "Hey, John, do you mind if I sit with you?" she asked. Tom went off on an early meeting with his clients. She sat down and smiled warmly at me. She was so beautiful. "I'm sorry if we woke you last night," she said. "Tom has so much energy and we have a great love life. We just want to have all the fun we can." She was very warm and friendly with me, so I joked with her. I gotta say, for a guy who's 75, that's pretty impressive. Well, John, when Tom and I met and we were falling in love, he was worried about not being able to satisfy me in bed long term, and he wasn't getting any younger. I told him what I'm now going to tell you, that any guy can perform like when he was 24 years old if he knows how, she said mysteriously. And if every man knew the one thing that Tom does every morning to get himself as hard as a rock every day, there'd be almost no man alive with erection problems, and the ED industry wouldn't exist, she added. She looked at me as I sat there open-mouthed and seemed to understand by my dumbfounded facial expression that I needed help with my own erections. "You see, John," she said, "men are trying so hard these days to get firm erections and fix their ED, but they're doing it all wrong. You'll never fix erection problems unless you target this one thing that nearly every man misses. Let me explain, and I promise I won't get too technical with you. When you get aroused, your brain sends a signal to pump blood down the pipe and into your penis fast. And to do so, it needs to relax this tiny muscle called the smooth muscle, which sits just above your penis and acts as the valve to your penis blood vessels. The blood can only flow into your penis when this smooth muscle valve relaxes. The smooth muscle then traps the blood inside the blood chambers in your penis. When it traps the blood inside, it expands the tissue of the penis, engorging it and causing it to become hard. This is what an erection is. When this smooth muscle valve works fine, you can get and stay hard easily no matter your age. When it doesn't work right, you simply cannot get erect no matter what you do, or maybe get semi-erect, or lose your erection after a few minutes. Imagine you're blowing up a balloon for your kid. Well, you'll never blow that balloon up if the air keeps escaping, will you? No matter how much air you blow in, the air escapes. It's the same with your erection. When your smooth muscle valve isn't working, even if the blood pumps in, it escapes from your penis right after. Meaning no matter how good your circulation is or how high your testosterone is, you'll never stay hard. At best, your penis will get semi-hard for a few minutes. The good news is when you fix the smooth muscle, the valve, with the 60-second penis hardening formula I'm about to give you, it'll be like pumping air super fast into the balloon and trapping it in there. You'll pump the blood fast into your penis and keep it inside, creating pressure and causing your member to expand and harden up instantly, producing the biggest, hardest, and longest-lasting erection you've had since your teens. And why does this smooth muscle stop working for some guys, I asked her. The reason the smooth muscle fails to function right in about so many men these days is down to something called oxidative stress, a condition that attacks tiny hormones called androgens inside the smooth muscle, making it impossible to trap the blood inside your penis. This is what prevents 95% of men from getting and staying hard, she told me. Oxidative stress is what happens when there's a buildup of toxins in one area, and often it can inflame your muscle tissue. When this happens, you can only get hard for a short time or you get semi-hard at best. Or, as the smooth muscles condition worsens, you fail to get erect and you become completely impotent, she explained. And that is the number one cause of ED in men, John. It's not what most men think. It's not your blood circulation, and it's not even low testosterone. Sure, those things can be helpful, but unless you address the oxidative stress that attacks your smooth muscle, you'll never get real hard erections, she told me. Meaning, you can take care of your diet, exercise, even take testosterone supplements, but unless you fix this one thing, you'll never really get those hard erections that you want and deserve. So why do men get this oxidative stress that attacks the smooth muscle, I asked her, super curious by now. Well, there's one toxic chemical that causes the oxidative stress that's attacking the smooth muscle, which causes it to malfunction and fail. It's a chemical called phthalates, and it attacks tiny hormones called androgens, which your smooth muscle valve needs to function. You'll find it in plastic food wrapping, containers, and even common cosmetics. There are a couple other chemicals such as BPA, BPS, and dioxin that do similar damage. And these chemicals are also present in foods that the male health industry tells us to eat every day. Then she said spinach, for example, contains super high levels of toxins that can attack and destroy your erection directly. Then she told me about a study by the Environmental Working Group that tested and found huge levels of dangerous toxins in regular spinach. I felt cheated, as I'd been reading on every male health website that spinach would help my erection, when in reality it was destroying it. These chemicals are linked to hormone changes, lower sperm count, obesity, diabetes, and thyroid irregularities, she added. How do you know all this? I asked her. I was a researcher for the makers of the biggest ED drugs on the market for 12 years, she told me. I know exactly how these erectile drugs work and the mechanism they involve. What ED drugs do for you is temporarily jumpstart the smooth muscle, the valve, for an hour or two. That's the only effect they have. Your blood is then able to pump into your penis and it gets trapped in there, meaning a man can get a temporary erection. But when the effect wears off, the smooth muscle stops working again. Is it true that before the 1970s, almost no man suffered from ED, I asked her? Well, John, you have a point, she replied. Use of the toxic chemicals that inflame and disrupt your smooth muscle were dramatically increased during the 1980s, which is why in the 90s, men suddenly started suffering from ED at much higher rates. And that's why Viagra was such a success. But before that time, almost no men like your grandfather suffered from ED. And even right into old age, they could get hard, no problem. Today, there's an ED epidemic going on. Half of guys over 40 are getting ED without any explanation from their doctors. You don't hear much about it in the media because it's considered taboo. Even guys in their 20s are getting severe ED. Now let me ask you, did you ever hear about your friends getting erectile dysfunction when you were in your 20s? I had to admit that erection problems in your 20s were unheard of back when I was that age. It was ridiculous to even imagine it. We could all get hard on command. Well, now the record number of guys in their teens and 20s are getting ED, she said, and it's all because of this toxic chemical attacking their smooth muscle. Her theory made sense to me, but I was still a little skeptical. So why is it only some of us men suffer from ED when others don't? I asked her. Some men can't remove this toxin from their bodies as fast as others, she replied, meaning higher traces of the chemical circulate freely in the blood and attack the smooth muscle. Remember, these chemicals are brand new substances to our bodies and we haven't all evolved to flush it out fast yet. Look, it's not your fault. Chemical conglomerates have basically bribed the government to be allowed to use their polluting chemicals that cause ED in millions of unsuspecting men. And pharma companies are right in on this racket and want to keep this golden goose alive, she said. They've worked with chemical companies and lobbied behind the scenes to keep these nasty substances legal too, because they know as long as they do, it'll mean they make billions from guys buying their pills to get hard. Together, they've created their own world where millions of men suffer from ED so they can sell drugs to them and make a fortune. This is why I quit the corrupt pharma world and became a nutritionist instead, she said. Now, if you want to fix the root cause of your ED naturally, you can do it in a few days or weeks. But there's one condition. You'll have to listen to what I say and do what I tell you. I nodded in agreement. After all, what choice did I have? Here's the deal, John, she said. ED drug manufacturers base their mechanism on a weird fungus from the Himalayan mountains in Tibet. They didn't invent the formula themselves because it exists in nature. They copied the formula and DNA from the fungus and used it to manufacture their own pills. It's an erection remedy that Tibetan men have used for centuries, which explains why, in Tibet, impotence levels are the lowest in the world. I felt excited to know there was a natural substance that would harden my erection out there. Then, to my disappointment, she added, unfortunately, this Tibetan fungus is very rare. It's almost extinct. However, we were able to reproduce the formula to have an even more potent effect on the erection by using nothing more than a mixture of herbs, enzymes, and foods, she said. The effects of ED drugs and the Tibetan fungus can be surprisingly easily replicated using these natural foods, enzymes, and herbs in the right quantities. We studied this 5 years ago and tested it out extensively on nearly 10,000 ED sufferers. My husband Tom blends these herbs and foods into a drink he calls his hardwood tonic that takes only 60 seconds to make. This hardwood tonic targets and eradicates the root cause of ED in men, the harmful toxin that disrupts your smooth muscle. It does this with a unique blend of flavonoids or plant chemicals that reverse oxidative damage, and it increases levels of super important gas in your blood that's essential for hard erections, she told me. This gas is called nitric oxide, and when you increase it, you repair damage to your beaten down blood vessels and enhance your blood flow throughout your entire body. Meaning, this potent natural tonic sends a torrent of nutrient-rich blood to your penis about 15 minutes after drinking it. With your smooth muscle functioning again, it can trap the blood inside your penile chambers, causing your manhood to blow up like a balloon. The result is that you get super big, hard erections again for as long as you like. She smiled as if remembering her husband's hard erection from that morning. I have the ingredients for this tonic, John, and it may surprise you that you can find most of them at your local grocery store. The only thing you need to do is combine them in the right quantities, which I'll show you. She winked at me and said, when you take the tonic every morning, you'll see what I mean. That afternoon, Wendy emailed me the 30-page guide of tonic recipes. First, I had to drink the main tonic daily, the hardwood tonic as they call it, and were 5 powerful tonics in total, as well as 5 teas I could make if I was busy and needed an extra boost to my erection, a total of 10 potent erection-boosting tonics. She added a few pages, including some simple nutritional rules I should follow to get best results, including avoiding some foods she called erection killers. And what stunned me was some of these erection killer foods were promoted as healthy in the media, such as spinach. To tell you the truth, I was unsure this would work. I had been looking for natural ways to fix my ED for several years. How could I have missed this? But when I told Wendy about my doubts, she told me not to worry because it was a special ratio of foods, enzymes, and herbs that would rapidly harden my erection. The foods contained high levels of specific nutrients named flavonoids, she said. And according to studies by both Harvard Medical School and the University of East Anglia in England, there are 3 of these flavonoids which are helpful to harden erections fast. These are flavonones, anthocyanins, and flavones. The ingredients in the hardwood tonic have the most potent combination of these 3 flavonoids and in the right quantities. She showed me the scientific proof of these studies that were also published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine and the International Journal of Impotence Research. Even if Wendy had shown me the scientific proof that this would work, I still felt skeptical, but I decided to give it a shot when I returned home. The ingredients for my main hardwood tonic were easy enough to find in a couple local health stores. Then to make it, all I had to do was add the ingredients in the specific amounts she'd given me to water and gulp it down on an empty stomach that morning. It tasted great, though honestly, I wasn't expecting it to give me a hard erection, so I kind of forgot about it. I figured I'd give it 6 weeks to see if it really worked. Maybe after a month I'd notice a change. Then later when I got home after work that night, I saw Laura in the kitchen making dinner, and she looked so hot in her figure-hugging skirt I felt myself instantly getting aroused. I walked over and touched her shoulder. She turned around and looked me in the eye, and before I knew it, I could feel a rapid stiffening in my pants. Within seconds, my erection was so hard it was bursting my zipper. I quickly took Laura by the arm and almost dragged her into the bedroom. And right there and then, we had the most passionate, amazing sex we had had for the past 10 years. My penis was hard as steel, and it stayed that way for a full hour as my wife climaxed again and again and again. Afterwards, when it was over, we had dinner and a glass of wine, and we couldn't stop smiling at each other. It felt as though the spark was back, like we first met when we'd make love several times a day and hold each other for hours after. But inside, I wasn't sure. After all, it'd been years since I performed anywhere near as good as that. What if it was a one-off? As I went to bed that night, Laura rolled over to my side, and my doubts melted away as I instantly felt myself getting hard again. And we enjoyed the most mind-blowing night of passion either of us could remember. And what I loved about this hardwood tonic as well as the super hard, long-lasting erections was that I felt more manly, more energetic, more masculine, like a younger version of myself, but with all the experience. My orgasms were super intense and pleasurable. Even my package looked and felt bigger, and my muscles seemed harder. Women I didn't know would smile at me in the street. Let's face it, when you know you can outperform any dude around, including the younger guys who think they're ballers, you start to radiate a quite powerful confidence that other men respect and women are subconsciously attracted to. And as the weeks and months went by, Laura and I grew closer and closer, bonded by the growing intimacy between us. Our marriage was thriving and friends and family noticed. We couldn't keep our hands off each other. Then one evening as we hung out with our friends at their place, my buddy Mike pulled me to one side. Mike was 63 and had remarried a couple years back. "Hey, John, I overheard Laura telling my Karen that your sex life is incredible," he said. "Nowadays, I can't fire up my penis without popping 2 pills. It's costing me a fortune and it doesn't even work well. Spill it, buddy. What's your secret?" So I shared my hardwood tonic recipes with Mike. And 5 days later, I got this text message from him. "Buddy, what the This tonic gets me hard as a rock. Karen is loving it. I owe you big." A week later, another gathering I had 2 women I barely knew, Yolanda and Angela, usher me aside to ask me for my secret hardwood tonic recipes. They'd been chatting to Mike's wife, Karen, and had gotten wind of this amazing hardwood secret. So I emailed each one of them the potent tonic mix. And several days later, I got this astonishing email from Yolanda. "John, thanks for those insane tonic recipes that jump-started my husband's erections. I got Todd drinking the most potent tonic first. At first he was reluctant and super skeptical, but he finally agreed to try it for just 1 week. Well, let me tell you, John, we didn't need to wait that long. After 3 days, he jumped me as soon as I got home, and his erection felt thicker and harder than I've ever known. He lasts a good 40 minutes, and his performance is now much better than when he took those drugs prescribed by his doctor that gave him vision problems. It's amazing, and I am so grateful to you for sharing. Our lives have been transformed. Yolanda." And check out what Scott here had to say. "Hey, John, you sure injected some outrageous passion to our love life. I found it hard to admit, but I was slacking in the bedroom. I'm a guy who only ever listens to his doctor, but I have to admit my doc's advice wasn't working. I could only stay hard for a few minutes, max. Since Angela came home and started mixing me those tonics you gave her, my erections have ballooned in size and stay rock hard for at least 30 minutes. Each time we make love, I feel like my erections get harder and longer, and Angela can't get enough of me. Seems like this is finally the missing piece of the erection puzzle I couldn't solve." Scott. After a few weeks of people sharing my tonics, somebody must have shared my email at some point as I started getting up to 50 emails a day. And that's when things started to go nuts. I think most guys were too embarrassed to ask me directly for the hardwood tonic, but that didn't stop their wives and girlfriends who hunted me down ruthlessly. It was too much to handle, and that's why I set up this website, so I can help any man or woman who wants a great sex life discreetly, safely, and very quickly. With Wendy's help and nutrition expertise, we made the complete blueprint to help any man get super hard erections again. What's more, we expanded it to include incredibly effective yet simple techniques to reverse ED that cover every type of ED there is, from partial or occasional erection problems to full-blown long-term ED. We called this erection hardening blueprint the Hardwood Tonic System, and so far it's helped 26,137 men get their naturally stiff erections and their lives back, for good. I remember how complicated everything seemed when I first started searching for solutions, so I wanted to make it super easy for other men to follow. We made videos as well as hard erection manuals to share every method there is to get harder erections. Videos that men can easily understand and follow. This solution had to reveal the truth about erectile dysfunction that pharma companies pay money to hide. It had to work fast and fix ED in men for every type of ED out there. It took months of work and endless testing and perfecting on volunteers, but we finally got there in the end. I'm proud to present the Hardwood Tonic system to you, the only super fast blueprint to reverse ED and get your natural hard erections back. In this hard erection blueprint, you'll find the most powerful and proven methods for getting back the stiffest erections of your younger years. Here are a handful of the cutting-edge shortcuts you'll discover in minutes from now. The most potent hard erection tonic ever discovered, as well as a total of 10 different penis stiffening drinks, meaning you have amazing hardwood tonics for every day of the week. Hard erection nutrition techniques to add that extra edge of stiffness and size to your erections, meaning you'll never be short of erection-enhancing options. The complete guide to avoiding hidden erection killers in food. Once you eliminate these sneaky poisons that attack your manhood, you'll free up your full male potency. The erection rescue plan. What to do if ever you're losing your stiffness halfway through, and how to restore your hardness in 7 seconds, meaning no more embarrassment or shame of losing wood when she's enjoying it most. The mind focus method to enhance your hardness at all times. Scientists found that this focus trick alone boosts erectile strength by 42% on average. The nighttime secret to get your morning wood bursting through the blankets so you can surprise her with a huge flagpole as soon as she wakes up. The penile muscle strengthening plan that repairs shocking damage inflicted by long-term ED, and this actually increases the girth of your manhood. That alone is easily enough to get you hard as a rock, but you'll also get the blood flow boosting spice combinations. Mix these kitchen spices in the right way to widen your blood vessels, get extra pump, and send a river of erection boosting nutrients where they're needed. The incredible testosterone shortcuts. Use these proven techniques to power up libido, harden muscles, increase endurance, get bigger loads, and boost mood and confidence. An ancient meal timing strategy that reverses the physical age of your organs, repairs arteries, reduces inflammation, melts belly fat, and hardens your wood. The unlikely breathing method that stiffens erections even more, increasing the flow of oxygen-rich blood right into the corpus cavernous. And while that's enough to boost any man's erection, the Hardwood Tonic system is not for you if you prefer blowing your cash on synthetic ED pills that produce a fake erection that instantly softens as soon as the effect wears off. I ask only that you're ready for the responsibility of the shockingly hard new erections you'll get. If you are ready to restore your stiff erections and fix ED for good, then take a second to imagine waking up with the biggest, hardest erection you've had in the last 10 years. The alpha male dominant feeling you'll get when you know you can outperform any other dude around. Watching your wife or girlfriend spasm in ecstasy as she climaxes intensely over and over again, all thanks to you. The dotting look on her face as you catch her admiring you after you've given her yet another night of endless and incredibly passionate sex. The amazing improvement in your self-worth, your confidence, and your family life. What is it worth to you to feel this manly, confident, and sexually youthful? To never have to worry again if you'll get hard tonight, or if you'll lose your wood after a few minutes. Picture yourself in a few weeks' time when you've got your super hard big erection back. Imagine how good it'll be to strut down the street with a big package and feel like a real man again. Other men will be envious as word of your incredible performances gets out among their wives. And think of all the money you'll save when you don't need to hand over your hard-earned cash for fake pharma pills anymore. What will you do with all that money? Maybe go on a vacation of your dreams, or buy a new car, or perhaps build a man cave or extension to your house. Whatever you decide, with Hardwood Tonic, I want you to get back at least 100 times what you invest, which is why when we started, men asked me if they could pay as much as $500 to fix their erections. After all, it's what you'd pay for a few months of artificial ED pills and 1/4 the cost of a single testosterone injection. But I'm not some faceless corporation trying to extract money out of guys who are having a tough time with ED. I'm a real guy who's been through ED hell, just like you and millions of other men, and us guys need to stick together. And that's why I will never ask for $500 or even half or a quarter that amount. Instead, when you invest in the Hardwood Tonic system, you get the full erection hardening blueprint, the potent tonics, the nutrition guide, the testosterone tricks, and the penile strengthening shortcuts for only $97. And that's an incredible deal. But because I believe in you, I want to give you everything in my power to get your hardwood back. I'm prepared to give you a special, one-off special offer and cut the price down to just $37, which is a tiny investment to get your hard erections back without pills, pumps, or silly gadgets. To get your confidence, your performance, and maybe even your marriage back. How does that sound? Because if I were in your shoes, it'd be an easy choice. Maybe you're not ready for these powerful methods and you don't want to get hard as a brick, and that's okay, it's your choice. But if you're ready to get the wonderful stiff erections of your younger years back, then click below to get started. You'll be taken to a page like this where you fill in your details. Once you confirm, you'll get instant access to the Hardwood Tonic system and start getting your stiff erections back again. There is a catch because this amazing low price won't last much longer. Wendy believes we should be charging at least $350 for this system, which is changing men's lives. We're in discussions, but I know at some point I'll have to throw her a bone. You could come back here later today and the price is 3 times what it is now. As well as this super low price, the Hardwood Tonic system also comes with the most solid money-back satisfaction guarantee you'll find. For 90 days, you can get the full refund if you're not 100% satisfied with the potent, stiff erections you'll be enjoying. Heck, you can get every cent back even if you change your mind and decide it's not for you. The checkout process is 100% securely encrypted and anonymous, meaning nobody will know you've ordered Hardwood Tonic. The payments are handled by a trusted, secure partner, ClickBank, and this is the name you see on your statement. You get your hard erections back for good or you pay nothing. You've got to admit that's a rock-solid, risk-free guarantee. I'm pretty sure Big Pharma don't offer a refund or a trial period when they give you a migraine and heart palpitations with their pills. I'm pretty sure they keep every cent in their pockets, even when their pills do nothing for you. Test drive this penis hardening blueprint for a full 3 months before deciding. A new future where you get hard erections on demand and walk with a confidence alpha male swagger has opened up for you. And it all starts when you click below and fill in your details. And because I'd like to make this a total no-brainer for you, if you order today, you'll get 3 incredible bonus plans on the house. Bonus 1 is the Quick Start Accelerator Plan. As I know you're busy, I had the entire Hardwood Tonic system condensed into a Quick Start Action Guide. You can take this easy guide and refer to it anytime, anywhere on your smartphone, tablet, or computer. Ever need an erectile boost on a weekend away? No problem, it's all here. Bonus 2 is the Hard Erection Mineral and Vitamin Guide. In the Hard Erection Vitamin and Mineral Guide, you'll get proven scientific techniques on how simple combinations of vitamins and minerals can stiffen your erection and power up your libido much faster. When you combine these easy-to-find and inexpensive nutrients the right way, you'll notice a spike in libido, pleasurable pangs of desire, and bigger loads when you climax. Bonus 3 is the 7-minute testosterone enhancer. Which man doesn't want to burn belly fat, enhance energy, firm up muscles, and improve mood in just 7 minutes a day? When you start the Hardwood Tonic system, you'll get this powerful 7-minute testosterone enhancer guide free. This is your ticket to a younger, more attractive body, feeling manly, looking younger, and living longer. Imagine, with the Hardwood Tonic system, you'll be performing again in weeks or even days from now. Not only that, you'll get the 3 VIP bonus programs if you order in the next 30 minutes, which will add the extra edge to your performance and manliness, unleash a torrent of testosterone, and add 10 years to your life. Along with the 90-day guarantee, there's everything to gain and nothing to lose to give the Hardwood Tonic system a try when you click below. Right now, you have a choice. Your first choice is to do nothing. You probably realize that means nothing will change in your life. Getting hard will be a struggle. Your energy and desire will stay flat, and you'll continue feeling like less of a man than you were. And the longer you stay without getting hard, the more likely it is that your penis shrinks. And I don't want to scare you, but penile atrophy and shrinkage happens to men who suffer from long-term ED. The muscles start to waste away, the blood vessels contract, and your manhood slowly but surely shrivels up. According to the American Journal of Medicine, it gets less and less likely that you'll ever resolve your ED the longer you go without fixing it. These are the scientific facts about ED. And we haven't even started on talking about the negative impact on your confidence, your marriage or partnership, and your happiness. But the good news, there's another future that awaits you. That's the one where you click below, get your hard erection back for good with the Hardwood Tonic system. When you get started with this unique blueprint, it can actually expand your erectile tissue, restoring your size to the youthful and vigorous big manhood of your younger years. It's time to do the right thing for you and your partner by clicking the button below. If you have any more questions, I'll do my best to answer them here. Does the Hardwood Tonic system really work? This system gets nearly all the guys who follow it better erections. Of course, results vary according to the condition you're in, the medications you take, and the length of time you've had ED. Some men will get better results than others, but nearly every man who gives it a go will experience an improvement in erections. This improvement alone is worth at least 50 times what you invest today. How does the 90-day money-back guarantee work? From the moment you order, you'll have a full 3 months to trial this system. It'll work for almost any man, but if ever you're not satisfied or if it's not for you, feel free to contact our friendly customer service team and we will happily refund your order in full within 48 hours. You'll be attended to by a real person who cares about your satisfaction and is eager to help. What if my ED is psychological? In Vegas, we met a doctor who, after a few too many drinks, blurted out that he would tell younger men that their ED was psychological to get rid of them. And the good news is, the Hardwood Tonic system includes methods that put you in a better state of mind, including one visualization trick which helps you overcome performance anxiety. Other methods reduce stress and anxiety and can boost your mood, all helpful for erections. Is my order secure and anonymous? The order process is encrypted with the same technology that Amazon and online banks use to keep your details safe. Nobody needs to know you've signed up with the Hardwood Tonic as it's completely anonymous and secure. It'll be your secret weapon to getting those hard, frequent, and long-lasting erections. What do I have to do next? All that remains is for you to click the order button below and proceed to the next step. You'll fill in the details on the next screen, which looks like this. Once you've done that, you'll get instant access to your full Hardwood Tonic system for boosting your erection hardness, so you can perform again like you could during your younger years. Remember those times? Get ready to enjoy them again, except this time, you'll have all the experience. You gotta admit, it makes perfect sense to give this a try. Click below and get started with the Hardwood Tonic system, and I'll see you there.